I've just been putting up videos because, well, the game's been out for a while, and Spiritual Assault only came out in 2022, November, and there just wasn't anything helpful on that. So there's a playlist that you can find in the channel for each hero and how to beat it easily with an injector, the radioactive gloves, or the rainbow, just a superb in there. How to do it easily and get spores at level 1 if you just run around and you do the Concentrator, and I'll just show you that, but it'll be in the link. And I'm applying the same knowledge to Reincarnation runs. Whoops, I didn't change my hero there. Let me change to, I've just been doing videos on each hero. I've done R8s on all of them, but I didn't record them back then. I only started recording when I realised there wasn't a lot out there to help. And I'd worked out some stuff that wasn't anywhere. I've watched all the main stuff because spores changed, and it now is the best Gemini. So I'm going to say why in a minute. So what this does is it allows you, when you haven't got gold in the game, to re-roll, reforge, etch and so forth weapons for free. The only downside is you can have 20 scrolls only. And then that twigged that the way etching works, I always thought that it was 4 inscriptions. So the first boss in Reincarnation runs drops weapons with 4 inscriptions, even though they're level 3. I thought it was the inscription count that, you know, you can go to Craftsman and etch a Gemini on it in the second act, but it's actually the weapon level. And you can get spores before the first boss if things go right. So once I worked that out, I applied the same principles doing Reincarnation runs on my heroes, and they became much easier once you get spores earlier, especially on the higher difficulties. When you're coming into the second act, you're melting the first boss, but coming into the second act strong. And on 8s, the hardest thing is the challenges in each room, and there's a big step up from 7 to 8, by the way, and then a big step up from 8 to 8 Jokul. And so I do have in the channel just showing these principles applied on what I would consider my main, which is the bunny, that I like playing the most, but that works across all heroes, and that's how I got my 8s done on each hero. So let's just get out of there and we'll start a run. I'm only going to do an R1 to keep the video shorter and the commentary if I get time later, but I'm about to move on to some other games. Returnal's coming out, which is a roguelike game, in 2 days, so I might not have the time, but if I do, I'll come back, and I'll definitely be back for the new content coming out in March to June in the spring update. So we'll do that. Now I always choose here. Notice that Lone Wolf makes the run harder as if you're doing 2-player, but being able to choose overconsumption at the start just really helps. The first few acts, you'll still have 50% of those statistics on the last boss, because every scroll reduces those, whether it's, you know, enhanced. But by that time, you've got spores, you've got your guns, you've got your ascensions, and we'll go from there. And let me just pause for a second. I realised I didn't have the build open in the page. I'll come back. Okay, sorry about that. So just to show you, I'm going across to what I think is the best information. The video, how old is the video? 3 months old, so it's still current and accurate, where things have changed if you're watching a video from a year ago. But here I think slight RNG, and I'll put a link into that build. He does help you understand, you know, the core, whether you're doing a sniper build. We're going to look for the angelic aura or an injector that's fast. He's not assuming we're doing spores, so we might change some of those up. But he's saying, you know, the must pick at the top is lightning from the void and so forth. We're doing a non-sniper build, so we wouldn't be doing the sniper choice there, we'd be doing the third one down. Anyway, you can work that out, and we'll be looking at the core build, and then he says, you know, if you've got those, if nothing, they don't turn up, go down to good, nothing better, usually avoid. So he's giving you a tier list that's helpful just to know which powerful things. The thing is, spores is much, much better than skill damage. Skill damage is good earlier because overconsumption will clear whole rooms with a Q, and our lightning will just smash. But later on, and I've watched videos on the Tiger where it's really good early, and later on they do a Q, you know, the lightning, and they'll take a slither of the health or armor off, where spores will just destroy everything, even on an 8. And you can see an R8 Jokul and Bunny, which are in my channel, just for examples of the same principles. I just did a run on an 8 on the Monkey, where, again, just used spore weapons like I'll be using on the Tiger, and I had no problem in the run. So it works across heroes, and spores changed apparently. I'm not sure the date, but most things are talking about other Geminis being good, and that's because spores at the time those videos went out was terrible. You had to swap weapons, apply something, and then swap to the other weapon, and nobody used it. But then they changed it because nobody was using it and made it OP. I hope they don't nerf it in the future. It really helped me get my first R8 kills on my heroes. Okie doke. And I only started recording recently, so I missed my first kills. Except for the bunny, I did it at the end, thought I need to record this. I actually recorded it for my son I play with. He's in his 20s, and his friends, just to show that I did a solo kill on both of them, which they haven't done, you know, just got a bit more time than them. Now, overconsumption, you can just see it's just so OP. Movement speed, weapon damage, skill damage, max HP, and it's diminished by scrolls, so you just got to be a bit selective. And I'll go down to a 1, just because I did an 8 then. Just want the video to be easy and easy to commentate, and they get really long when you're doing 8s. And I don't want to edit, because it's too much effort. Now, you've got 2 choices here in refreshing. You can do the one that gives you more shield as you go along. Let me see here, that's not bad. You can go the defense. I'm just looking for it. There, for every elite boss is killed, especially on the higher one, you're like 10 elites or something by the end, and that's 50 max shield, that helps. I'm just going to, for the purpose of this, do the one that's multiplicative, where you just do your Q and it hits harder for each bounce. It won't do well later on, but it will. That's it, 30% chain lightning damage. I'd go the defensive on an R8, but I'm just doing that to clear. It's not a huge difference, but... And I'll choose that. Now what I'm coming here is Craftsman's Inheritor, like I just showed you as the other build out, just the same. If you don't have a lot of essence, you can just roll a couple of times, it gets more expensive. That's a good one for the 2nd or 3rd mushroom, that's a must if you're trying to get your first run. Even not, it just makes the run so much more successful. So what you do if you're trying to re-roll, you don't get charged anything by going back to the lobby and coming in and rolling 2 or 3 times, and then you're not... See, it says 0 essence you've lost, I'm capped. It only gets charged when you go through the door. Obviously to etch early, and the assumption here is that has to be unlocked. But if you're doing the higher levels, that's what you want to get down to as a priority, the higher runs. Because etching early means spores early, and it means you're going to one-shot everything just instantly. Whether it's an 8, I just did on the monkey, still one-shotting as soon as I got in the 2nd act. Okay, we'll do it again. So that's how you re-roll. You can do it in co-op too. I've done it with my son where he didn't have much essence and I had a bit more, and I'd let him roll and then I'd burn mine. So we reforge, refresh until the 30% for me. I'm only doing that to make it a bit quicker, but I would do the defense otherwise. Craftsman's Inheritor, there it is there. So usually it takes you 2 or 3 restarts to get what you want. I used to do, I think it's called Lightning Arc or something, which the other page, which I pinned about the build, did, and that was very nice, but the spores actually outperforms it. As I said, skills don't scale well. What do I want? Whatever you want there. It's not going to be our main weapon for the run. And just getting ammo here. Ammo and Qs, but you know, our Q will just kill everything. If there was an 8, it would, you know, just bounce around. He was enhanced. I just want to get my ammo stocked up a bit. I'm just showing you what I'd do in an 8. I wouldn't do this in a 1. Wouldn't be a bother. Just our Q's taking that out. Ah, good angelic aura. Fastest firing rate in the game. The way spores works is you want something over 1,000. And you can get this with rate of fire. This could be up to 1700 to 1800 to high levels. So the faster, and we have to have a shotgun. We're looking for a wild hunter or a Argus, because they're the best spore places in the game. And I'll explain how that works when we get our shotty. We've got a chance of getting above peddlers. Now, because of the 300 weapon damage, you could use the foundry here, even on an 8, and a couple of shots will kill things in the early rooms. It just makes the first part of the run so much easier and faster. You're always going to get the first 2 bosses down, and then by then you've got everything lining up. I'd usually go and go, I'll usually go and get that, but always the first one's not hard. I just want to clear it. That was a good lightning, hit the wall. Okay. Not a brilliant one for us because we're really not doing an E-build. We've got the build pinned, so you can be looking at that, but the only thing I would change from that build, that's for the non-sniper one, so crits will do more, but we'll only be critting towards the end or on bosses because the weapons we're choosing won't crit early on. So Lightning from the Void is the top pick at the top, and when you do crit, it sort of does a chain lightning to everything, which is nice. But I would put the defensives up, so let me show you what I would change from the pinned slight RNGs. Is I do want survivability, and our E gives us survivability on bossing, so I would put that up a little bit further on the tree rather than good to core. Other heroes have survivability built into their system, so we're just wanting an Argus or a Wild Hunt early, especially before the first peddler, before the first craftsman. Because we want to be able to bounce them up to level 5. The weapon in the first act has to be 5 before we can etch it. Our money's not an issue because they're all free, but I'm looking for defensive scrolls, DPS scrolls that are weapon damage. That's a good one, get an extra level. 33, 1 in 3 chance of upgrading beyond 3 levels to 4 on the Craftsman. Good to get early too, because it might get us up to level 5 easier. And if not, we'll get it at the first Craftsman in the next act. But the last few runs I've done on heroes doing the vids, I've always got it. You get lots of chances. Just watching the fire behind me, don't want to stand in it. But for spores to perform, you need a fast firing weight weapon. So we're going for the Rainbow, the Radioactive Glove, or the Angelic Aura. There's some others too that, but the 2 injectors are actually better for certain reasons I'll explain when I get them. If you choose Lightning Arc, instead of the first one, a Q on an 8 just empties the room, at least in the first act. But being able to roll our weapons with spores will outperform it once we get spores. And it doesn't do well bossing on a single target. But it is fun. It's giving us all these. I'm going to burn that, it's not helpful for us. We want weapon damage and survivability scrolls like Feline, Backup Shield, Phantom Skin, Heavy Shield. They're all legendary scrolls that give survivability majorly. Feline being the best in the game can make a run successful, just that one scroll. Increases damage done by 100%, but you'll never get hit more than 14% of your HP by a single enemy. So as long as you haven't got 20 enemies like crowding around you like this that hit you all at once, you're not going to fall over. So if you're trying to get your first R8, just keep running. If you die, don't get disappointed. It's just a bit of RNG, but this gives greater success, is what I'm saying. As soon as you get spores, the run becomes easy mode, and then it's just a bit of RNG. So we're looking on our little link there. We're doing a non-sniper build, and with Angelic Aura, if we bring that later on, especially on the higher levels. You want, it's one of the better weapons for critting. We'll have lightning bolt being triggered without doing our Q. You press your E also for survivability, if we get some survivability ascensions. There's a peddler there. I'm hoping for a shotgun on that. And it is good to have your skill tree where you can refresh the peddler on the left side. And don't go around this corner. There's going to be those exploding head guys and the little beetles. So come around usually, and they're probably still going to come around in the next room. Just don't rush into that corner quickly. I've died too many times early days. It's a good weapon, this one, for critting, eh? Just looking here, there they are, exploding head guys down the back there. It's going to blow that up. They will throw a grenade and blow it up when I'm next to it. The exploding head guys there again. Just I was going to say, coming out that door, so don't rush into that door and just fall over. How did I miss back there? It's the peddler I missed. I've got to go back for it. Peddler there too. This weapon lifts a bit. So you sort of got to drag it down a bit when you're far away. When we get spores, it doesn't matter if you're hitting their crit spots or not. It will destroy them as if you're hitting crit spots. So in hectic rooms that are tight like this, you can just hit them in the body and it will nuke them. Even here, it does a lot of damage just because this weapon does. Best S-tier weapon in the game, really. And then the rainbows can outperform for defensive reasons I'll show later. So we'll see that if you're looking at the left, I would just push that up, because when we 5% max shield and minus 10% damage taken every time you're in fatal current, so it's good on bossing to press your E when you take a hit, and beforehand preemptively to get a bit more shield up. And I'll have a look on this one and go back for the other. So we've got the rainbow for the run. That's good. It's level 2 at this stage. Just toss that and melt that. Don't need gold, but just a little bit of gold to buy some stuff here. I'll pick that up temporary, but I'll be using this. And a shoddy, if there's a shoddy on this peddler, we will have spores before the boss. Any shoddy, even though that's got a low multiplier, we won't keep that for the run. We now can toss that out. We now will have spores because it's level 2. And we've got 2 craftsmen ahead that can bump that up to 5, and we can etch for free and so forth and re-roll them for free. And having spores or not spores, that would have done for a main weapon if we didn't get the rainbow. And we still might get a better shoddy on this, which we didn't. That's got low multiplier, low base damage. Just to show you, the Argus would be here at 16.5, and it would have at this level about 110 or something, 115 base damage. So, and it gets higher and higher and scales well as we bump it up. But we'll have spores now, and this weapon's really good defensively to get to the first boss on an 8, when usually things are a bit hard in here and you get challenges in each room. I'm not going to do that, it's just a scroll and it takes too long. I don't want to make the video go too much. Your skills don't break those things out that are frozen. So if you use your Q and E and very careful with your aim, you can do it without doing that. But yeah, your weapons will break it out. There's our Craftsman. So the rainbow won't go through that guy's shield, but our Q will. Just nuke him. It doesn't matter about our Q at this point. You can, if you've got more room, you just strafe around them and get behind them, but there's no room in this room. So we're going to bump that up because we still might get an Argus ahead. We've got another peddler and another craftsman before the first boss. So what you do is get up to 5. If you did the etching before 5, it would just put another thing down here. You're looking for rate of fire on this, by the way, but you know that's not too bad. until we get scrolls for that. The crit X doesn't matter except for the boss. The way you crit this weapon is to right click their crit spot, their face, their chest, and then you'll see yellow numbers critting all the time. There you go. You got spores ready on that one, and it's up a little bit to 5, and we'll get a chance to learn Nagas. This is a tough room if it's the long room, and it is. The really ones here that are dangerous are the longbowmen. But the great thing about this weapon is you can shoot the longbowmen and others through the floor and use the terrain around you to be defensive. The beam doesn't go through the shield, but you can right click their head when you get above them, or you just strafe around them. Like that caught him because he was turned the wrong way. Usually chat chests in this room on the higher levels, sometimes back here, watching out for that trap up there. But look around the room on the higher levels because you need every advantage you can get. So strafe around him. Q. That weapon is not a shoddy. That's got high, again, a pupil. That's 12, that'll go up to 12 as well. It's 89, about the same, but it would do as a temporary spore planter, or spore multiplier, I should say. It's going to be elite in this room. Look, I'm just doing it for the purposes of the video. Shit through and show you. Until you get spores, you know, those side rooms can actually kill you depending upon the elite. But I don't want to make the video too long, just showing the principles of getting spores early and how much it goes from night to day and makes the run easier. But you know, you do want, I usually do everything in the second act onwards, every room, every vault. But in the first act I'll be a bit picky until I get spores because you know, you can just die and you've lost time until you get really overpowered, which spores does. And you can shoot those guys through the floor up there. You know, it's a really good defensive weapon. Trying to get him. Trying to get that. And we're empowered for a level 1, R1, we are on 1, yep. Okay. Bait them, there's fire there, so I can't get around the back easy, but you just keep strafing and then you can get him. Just circle strafe around. Okay, can you see there that that's our Tesla coil, so the bounces hit further. Again, we're not doing a skill base, so 20 max shield, that supercharger is good, so 5 seconds after chain lightning deals damage. So I'm going to go for the defense, even though that on the build that you'd be doing says better, because once we get defensive over, I pressed that by accident. Okay, and it's going to be boss time, I think, through this room. And then we get spores, yep. So we're hoping for an Argus on here, or a Wild Hunt on the vendor. If not, so always check. I will do that, so 1 point off my scrolls. So we didn't get our shoddy, so I have to use this temporary until we get 1 in the next bit. So you have to get up to 5. We etch it, and we roll spores, and now the boss is easy. I didn't see which boss it is, but if it's the guy that jumps down, that's the guy that's, his crit spot is his eyes and his chest, but for us, just going to wait because I want to get closer. There's not a lot of range on this weapon. Right click his chest, and then get behind here, and you can shoot through, and he's going to be dead before, and that spores for you an overconsumption. It was mostly spores, to be honest, but the 300% weapon damage didn't hurt us. So once you get spores, everything's just going to die from here on. You can see that there's if nothing better, that's a choice. We're not doing a sniper build, and that's a nothing better as well. So we'll do plus 30% weapon damage if there's no enemy within 10 meters. Any give us weapon damage. Skill damage is secondary. Now you can see there that these weapons are only level 3, but they have 4. So if something dropped here, a shotgun that was good for us, like the Argus, we could take it to the first Craftsman and we could etch it. But actually I like getting it. Don't like going through this door on R8s. You could have like really difficult challenges. Fake death is what you want to get on this. That's always going to happen on higher levels, and you get a chance of an extra goblet or something. I don't care about that, so we'll just do that after dealing a crit and flick shock effect. We're doing that on boss, but for the moment spores is going to outperform our skills. Well, especially in the last act, so we're just going to one-shot everything now. Once you get spores, this is usually a difficult room. Sometimes you get this room with a hard challenge that you've got to crit everything with a foundry, 90% damage less. Even with that, if we're doing 10% damage with this, it's so powerful, we wouldn't have to get our foundry out. So it's good to come in strong here. Now usually there's a Craftsman in this room. You can see it up ahead, the next room, or at least the one after. So we're coming in here, and it's a shame we haven't got our Argus. So I might come back to this if an Argus drops in the next room or there's a peddler, because I don't want to bump this up for the run. It's not bad, but the base damage is not too bad, but the multiplier. So I'll just come back to that. And if not, well, we know that's there. And there's going to be a peddler here soon. There's the peddler. So, you know, I always just look for the peddler to see one last chance to get my weapon. It might drop off an enemy. But those arsonists are brutal. And on an 8, they'd be dying just the same. We got our wild hunt, so that's why I waited. So let's toss this. And it is level 3, so all we lost was, you know, a couple of levels there. Let's look at this chat chest. Cert scroll, we'll come back for that. We got a bit of money. It's good to get that bit later on when you got like 10,000 gold. It does get expensive quick, but we'll have a look. We'll do a couple of rolls on that in a second. So now anything, even though it's level 3, as long as it's got 4 here, and none of those inscriptions make any difference. It's this number, 15 and 148. So we etch it, we re-roll it, and we will have this for the entire run now, and we only upgrade the shotgun, never the main weapon. And as the main weapon gets better, and we will find more, we can replace that and think, oh, I upgraded that and now I've got to toss it, and the one that's picking up's lower. That'll never happen to you. That's useless. It's all right with the glove, but I'm just after something a bit better. Snow boots, yes, great defensive one. It means that I'm not so worried about the trap so much. I won't be slowed by octopuses, kappas, and on R8s, getting slowed can be fatal. That's a good one. You get hit, you get 10 seconds of 40% weapon damage. I think it's damage in general. It's weapon and skill damage. And that's one I love to get, abnormal speed. We just got 30% speed straight up. And we got 50% from overconsumption, so we got 90% speed, and speed is life. Just checking I've got spores on both. Hard room normally, and sometimes the affix, they can be on higher levels. I just did one on the monkey and they were shielded, the old glazed, whatever it calls, and you got to do some damage and then wait a second. And those arsonists are what makes this room really brutal. But we got spores, and if this was an 8, and you can have a look at my bunny doing this on an 8 and an 8 Jokul, we were killing just the same. We were one-shotting them. And now all the vaults become easy mode. Look around this room, there's usually a vault in it. So we've got our Tesla coil, which you know is in the core for the build we're doing. We'll choose that. It just means the Q bounces more, and as we get more defense, just as a little bit of help. But we're really relying on weapon damage, just looking around. Nope. Sometimes the vault's there. There it is. I was going to say around the corner. There usually is a vault in this room, and every vault has a scroll. I do hate the jumping puzzle in this room, not this part. Don't worry about the fire, doesn't hurt much, but this little bit here, especially with the, oh, I jumped down, especially with the extra speed, it makes jumping around this corner a little bit difficult for me. Not this part, I just stuffed up on that because of the fast speed. You have to like, just go around and then, terrible. Once you get around there though, it's easy mode. You can't even jump up a small step. Very generous on the time. Oh, it's the speed. You just jump on there and you're over. She got like 90% speed, so it actually works against you on platforming. And then there, and then dash and you're over. You don't have to go around the corner, especially with the speed increase we got. Just wait for your dash to come back off cooldown here and then get in the corner. And we're here. Plenty of time to spare. Deft hands is great. That's what I'm probably going to choose unless there was something really good defense. It means we're killing enemies so fast. It doesn't consume ammo, so ammo ceases to be a problem for the next 2 seconds, and we're just one-shotting everything, so we're not consuming ammo. And if you get a inscription on the weapon that says 50% rate of fire for the first 50% of the magazine, which we often get, it means you get 100% uptime of that. And that's useless. I don't know who stays still in the game. Remember, we don't just pick up scrolls because every scroll diminishes. We've lost 13% with those scrolls. Diminishes the effects of the starting percentages. So the way the spores works, I don't know if I've said that, but this is how hard the spores hits with the multiplier. 30 stacks is when the spore stack stacks. There's a number above the head. You often won't see it until harder difficulties because they die so quickly. But every 30 stacks and then an explosion, the damage happens from the spores. So we want to really have a fast firing weapon. That's why rate of fire is important, that those explosions are at shorter intervals and hit harder. This is doing the heavy lifting here. This is just a spore planner, and that's why we're upgrading that. Doesn't matter, you could go to the end of the game with a level 5 weapon if it had rate of fire on it and lucky shot chance. Second wave. This usually is a tough round again without spores because you've got the guys that charge you. You've got, there's a vault there. You've got snipers, but you can get underneath them with this weapon and they can't shoot you. I'll stay back a bit though because there is arsonists enhanced. But because our weapon's getting up, let me get out of here. We're a glass cannon. We kill quickly, there's the snipers, but we die quickly. Even on a 1. Just because it's considered co-op, so everything's, falls, they fall quickly, but we do too until we get some defensives going. There's an Argus, but we got a wild hunt, so we would have got our Argus by now for the run if we hadn't. You don't really get this far without having the shotty you want, usually. And you've always got spores by the second boss, at the latest. I was going to say, check up here for a chat chest, which we never take that unless we get the scroll. That's the evil something talisman, I forget the full name, but you have immunity to cursed scrolls. Probably elite in this room, and no, it's just scrolls, which can be good. We've got movement speed from Overconsumption and the abnormal speed scroll, and so these balls can be hard and you can die on, become random. I'm going to do that, trying to get rate of fire. We got crit X, we'll help on the boss, but I wanted something for trashing. The boss is going to be easy no matter what you got on the weapon. Bullet light, so I'm going to do that just for reloading, even though that's a normal scroll. The bullet light's alright. Okay. And the run becomes fast once you get spores. So we'll do the secret weapon. There's no enemy in 10 meters. It just gives us, like we got, if we lost a bit, but 360 weapon damage because of overconsumption. Every bit helps. As we lose some overconsumption, that won't be diminished. Just use the terrain, so a guy up there just, you can get around corners and shoot through the terrain. See, let me show you, our Q just doesn't pull its weight even. So you only get your Q stronger towards the end of the run when you get ascensions, and it requires that. Now let me do a Q just before I press my weapon. Corrosion backfire. Look, it's just not enough where we can just pew pew. And that's where skills just don't perform until the end of the run, and by then the enemies are so much HP. You really want them for defense more than anything. And you can get that from scrolls. So this takes the RNG out of the run if you're trying to get that first kill. I was going to say check in here for a peddler, and sometimes there is a vaulting in there in the corners. These are cursed peddlers, and they've always got an enhanced scroll, and they can be really awesome. That's giving me money, and I'm not having trouble with ammo, so I'm not going to lose. I used to love that before I started picking Craftsman's Inheritor at the start of the runs. That gives us movement speed when we pick up. That and that other one actually go together, because this will convert everything to what I've got. I don't want the money side of it. That'll give us movement, and I want as much movement as I can to make the run faster, but also defensively. So I just picked up ammo, I got 25%. Just going to blow that up so they don't blow it up on me. That next room is usually brutal, full of elites on harder levels, so we just bump that up. Don't miss a Craftsman's the main thing for this. And snipers up there, but you can use this weapon for line of sight, and you'll often get a elite invade you here. That's the corrosive guy, and he's pretty brutal if you haven't got spores for it. It's a slow kill. So I'm just shooting all the snipers up there, the retainers, through the floor. He can't shoot me if I get under there, you know. We didn't get the invasion by the elite, sometimes you do. Well, I usually do it if it's a vault that takes you to the same map. Okay, we can see that's in our pick for core. Just anything will help a little bit. But we're really not using skills. Now, the crit spot on this guy is his mouth, and the way you crit on this weapon is just by right-clicking. Just see what's on here. That's not bad, actually. Our white damage, which we're mostly doing on trash, is bumped up. That limits you using the chest. You get 50% weapon damage, but we do have overconsumption, some others, and I might want to use the chests. I don't have the immunity, so I don't want to get that. Okay, we just bump up our weapon. Have this for the entire run. As I said, that doesn't matter. We just want to get a better weapon with some better inscriptions. We're all right now. I just meant late for the run to pew-pew bossing. Right click, and then I just did a Q, and then he's just going to melt. Look. And if it was an 8, I just did an 8 on the monkey. If you watch my bunny one, that's going to give us weapon and skill damage, but you do lose your health. It's good if you get that scroll paranormality. We've got another rainbow here. 50% rate of fire, as I said, will help for trashing, and we get an extra projectile. So I've got to get to a Craftsman. Sadly, you can't go back to the Craftsman on bosses. So we're going to act a little bit weak. If we just had that, we'd destroy, but this is a better weapon, so I'll just run to the first Craftsman I can see and have to play a bit safer. It's not the weapon level so much, it's the inscriptions on this weapon that are helpful. So we're going to have the 100% uptime, because we're just going to be pew-pewing once we get spores on that. You know, that's helpful. That means we're never going to reload, so that means we're going to get 100% uptime on that. And it's got chance of an extra projectile. So, all good. And then, I mean, we're never reloading. It's just wonderful. So that 50% rate of fire will just destroy. We could use this for the entire run. Except if we get the boss. This weapon is not good for the boss. If it's the guy, and I've been getting him constantly lately, that is the third boss. I won't do that. Too risky. I don't have many defensives at the moment. The third boss that has the cannons on the side of the ship, and he's the the rainbow doesn't auto-target the cannons. If it was the radioactive glove, would be fine, but it's not. And we got fake death. It just means, you know, easy mode for the run, that at least on trash you're rarely going to die, or if you've got your skill tree out. And we got the Craftsman straight away. Don't always, but if it was in the room, I would rush to it because the game pauses. Can't be hurt right now. Reforge that and bump that up. Good timing, eh? It's not always in the first room, but it is usually in the first 3 rooms you'll get it. And now it's one-shotting everything. If this was 8, we'd be doing the same. You can use the terrain here, so there's octopuses up there or whatever. They can't shoot you, they need the line of sight, but great defensive weapon. Just read as you come in the rooms, every message. He's immortal, just wait till he goes. Kappas are dangerous here. They slow you, and then other enemies come in and nuke you. I might do that for the radioactive. Oh, we've got the radioactive glove here, and it's got spores on it. What's it got? It's got a lucky shot on crit, which it doesn't do. It's lucky shot instead of rate of fire, and I'll always choose rate of fire over lucky shot, so I wouldn't take that. I would take it if I didn't have the rainbow, and then I would roll it later on at a chat chest to try to get rate of fire on it. You know, the one that says replace all normals with, I don't think I refreshed that, did I? There's an Argus you would have got by now if you didn't, but it's too late in the run for that. You always get the second act at the latest. Okay. Just read this step in the rooms. Now, you don't get, on 8s you'll get challenges. That's the difference from 7s, 1 to 7s. You'll get challenges every room and you must read them. And on 8 Jokul, every room pretty much on every act has a challenge, and they can be brutal, some of them. So now you got spores, you can just see it actually becomes a really good way. Just getting that. If you right click, if your thing gets stuck like that, change your weapon, because if you do a right click and you're trying to kill an enemy, it sticks on the wall. Just weapon swap. You know, you're trying to click something and it's crit spot and that happens. Let's just go through for defense. These are the side rooms are really, I'm not after weapons, but you can get some really good defensive scrolls. So feline cat, stone skin, phantom skin, all legendaries. And it can make on the 8s, it's crucial to do this. We're going to get an elite spawn, and it's going to be the lobster, or it's the lobster. You just circle straight him and don't be on the fire, it really hurts. Okay, there's nothing there. That's useless, and that's useless, and nothing. It doubles the time of recharge, that's why that's really dangerous. And we're not getting down to 0 anyway. We've got lots of movement speed, it makes the run easy. The octopus is a priority here because they slow you. The catfish hurts, so just use line of sight with this weapon. Keep circle strafing them, they can't shoot you. The catfish, they sort of get glitched. The closer you are to circle strafe, you know, the more they get glitched. And you can shoot them before they even jump down to the ground to get you. Just on 8s, I always have a bit of a check around the room for Craftsman on my map, and you just need to get, you can't miss a Craftsman. It makes spores hit so much harder getting this up. It'll be up to 450, even 500, depending upon when you get your Argus on the run or wild hunt. Okay, we'll just do our, this one here. Again, it doesn't really matter about the build because we're doing a weapon-based run. If our ascensions aren't great and they don't perform anyway, I'll show you a queue on this trash. We've even got some decent ascensions, like a slither of health, where I can just one-shot everything. Alien invasion, he's gonna melt. And I'm not kidding, if it's an 8, just go and have a look. I haven't put the, I've got to put the monkey one up today, which I'll do before this actually. But it's just the same on an 8. You are a glass cannon, you can fall over easy in a mistake, but you learn how to use these defensive weapons, that makes up for it. These guys again, The radioactive glove slows, and it's got a much longer range. We could be killing everything from back here and slowing it. This is has a very short beam range, but you can use terrain. It's a bit more deadly, but you can shoot things like this, and they can't get you. Like this guy, just if it was a shark, just go around a corner. And just looking for, there's a peddler ahead. Just looking on my mini map that I haven't missed anything, especially the Craftsman. I'm treating this like an 8 run. I'm just trying to make the video quicker. I want to get some defensive rolls so you don't know what's coming up. This is usually pretty hard without spores. Like, you get this again, I'm going to get an elite at the end of it, and the catfish is pretty brutal. If it is the catfish, and it was a harder level, they poured around, just use this centre pillar and keep him on the other side, and the beam will hit him, but his projectiles that he does out front, which can one-shot you. I just got a link on me. Just doing that for shield regen, so it's mainly defensive, is our fatal current. I'm not using fatal current for deeps, and really the Tiger's a sniper build because it's the first shot afterwards that does the big hit. And this performs better than sniper build. I tried that one, it was pretty lackluster now that spores is out. Bloody ammo never choose. Now I'm choosing that. Usually I like to get snow boots, so I would choose that for the glove, but it works the same as snow boots if you don't have it. I don't want to diminish my overconsumption, so I won't choose that. And I don't need any of those. We're not reloading with the inscriptions on this weapon. But you know, there could have been a legendary scroll, so they're worth doing those side rooms. Phantom peddlers can have some ores for them and scrolls. Never seen the enhanced on this. Let me have a look. Usually it's, you know, you get 20% damage the faster you move, and we're moving fast. But we get weapon damage on this by moving fast. What do we got on this? This is a great weapon, but I'll stick with what I got for the moment. It's got no rate of fire, but it has got the projectile count, see there? So that is hitting really hard, and it's so fast rate of fire. But I'm going to do that. And if you're doing Jokul, you can refresh the Phantom Peddlers once. Only on Jokul, not at 8. Just doing that for defense here, because the shark's the most dangerous in this room. Just use corners for the sharks. They can't chain you, they try and then they shoot wide. Catfish can take your whole shield off in one hit. Just using the corners here. There's a Craftsman. And the room's clear. Bounce that up. Such an advantage getting your shoddy early and levelling it all the way through. Means that the run gets harder, spores hits harder. Okay, we'll do that. Within 5 metres, that's nice, 100% damage. So as long as we're more than 5 metres, we're good. It's even better for the glove, but these are all more than 5. Lobsters here, monks are dangerous. And kappas slow you, but we can't be slowed because we've got the snow boots, which is why I always choose those early. You often get that because the normal scrolls turn up early. Movement speed is so good, eh? Another Craftsman. Going to use the box for that guy if he comes over or doesn't die instantly. But going in for this guy over there, they are dangerous and you can finish her up. I want to get those lobsters down. Don't go in and die though, just make sure you're not. They'll target where you just were, so as long as you sort of circle straight, you're alright. It's good to remember that's there, because we might get it. This weapon is not good for the next boss, which is just up ahead. And if we get a weapon that is good for bossing, we'll come back to that. Only if it's the guy with the ship. If it's the Serpent, this weapon's fine. But you know, we've got a chance on the peddler. There'll be something to kill the boss if we, you know, it is. You can jump through and not have anything by that stage and still be all right. Just want to get that lobster as quick as possible. and come back for the other. This way you can roll your weapons sometimes, but we don't have the immunity. You often do get that in the last run. I got it in the first act. No weapons have dropped that are good for bossing. Again, you have only a few weapons you can use. They've got to be very higher. Fire rate has to be high. You can see on the build there, that's not too bad, but you've got to use Fatal Current to get it. So we'll just do the max shield with our Q. Just shot the air, killed the air. And we got the Serpent, so we can keep this. But if you didn't have the Serpent, you just come up to here and look for a fast firing weapon. So I'd grab that. It's 700. That's enough. And then what I would do is buy that and then re-roll and see if there was something better. And I would have kept what was before, because you got money, you know, you got money to burn. So just bump this up 3 times. Movement speed's really important on this guy. He comes down, you just nuke him. Spores, it's just destroying it. And the rate of fire. Get in between here. Just do a Q every now and then, and E maybe for a shield. Doesn't have a lot of range, you gotta wait. If you had the radioactive gloves, it would get them out there, but he's dead. And you can see, as I said, the bunny doing an 8 on that. Lucky shot chance on crit, but minus 50% lucky shot on normal hit. That's not good for us. Good for bossing. If we got that just before the last boss, I'd grab it because we're right-clicking the crit spot. But we're losing lucky shot by just auto-aiming. So I won't pick that up. Nothing else is good there. Level 10 weapons drop at that point. So sometimes you pick up, you know, the radioactive glove and angelic aura. If you're trying to unlock the next reincarnation, you can leave there, go back to the inn. You don't have to do the last act, and it will unlock the next. I always do full runs. You got the chance of failing. If you're on Jokul, you can actually talk to that guy and swap one of the 3 blessings that are down there. And what I do on Jokul is I swap the Inheritors one that I chose at the beginning. So my scroll count of 20 is not important anymore. I can add more if they're good. And I got plenty of money to re-roll my weapons if I get a better one in this act. So we're going in here, which is usually the hardest act, of course. Everything's usually enhanced on 8s. Every room has a challenge. But just giving an example that this weapon still destroys on an 8. Like I said, I just did the monkey on an 8 for a video, which I haven't put up yet, but it will be by the time you watch this. I'm just about to play another game in the next few days. Returnal, I think it's called. It's a roguelike game. It was a PlayStation game coming to PC on Steam. And so I'm just getting the last of the videos. When I first did my kills on each hero, I wasn't recording to help others. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Like, I don't get many views. The game's been out for a while, but there was nothing on Spiritual Assault, so I thought, oh look, I've cracked how to do that easy every time. I've got to let some others know that are struggling, because I know how much slight RNGs builds. I won't do the side rooms, I'll make this quick. I can run through the boss on this, but I would on an 8. I missed a, where is he? Back here somewhere, there he is. These are actually good speed runs, this weapon, if you're just trying to get some essence. And I think the best I've done is 17 minutes without doing side rooms. Just got a rainbow and spores early and beating to end. Get the up there by right clicking it. The saucer, it puts shields on everything. But don't go in for the saucer and then die to everything around. This will destroy through the barriers it puts on. So usually I'd stay at the back of the room and let the melee come to me. Elite Guardians, we actually got the invasion I talked about. It's the guy that splits into 3, and you don't know what the real one is. The real one's the one that is hard to kill, but because we're destroying, we don't know, we just kill them all. It's nice when you get spores and work out how OP it is. If you've done runs without spores and you've been successful in co-op, it's like, oh, why didn't I work this out sooner? You don't get a choice on this. And that's not a bad one if you're doing a, you know, skill based, but it's still not doing enough. I'll do a Q to show you. We've got a pretty decent, you know, run here. One of those for crits if you're doing a crit weapon, but we've got decent for our lightning build, looking on the left hand side. But look here, like, it does nothing in the last act. And that video that I watched, you know, lots of videos on this, and I watched in the end and realised their skills are doing nothing. It was their weapons that were made the run successful for the video, and they weren't even using spores. They were struggling to get stuff down, and they were doing lower reincarnation runs too, you know. I mean, this just becomes a joke once you get spores. And even on an 8, you know, you got to play a bit more carefully, because they'd still fall over. But if they don't damage, if they die so quick, they're not shooting us, you know. So damage is a defensive as well as anything. I'm not even casting my defensives at the moment. I would be on an 8, you know, doing my E if I got hit to get my shield back up. Bump that up. We've got our damage at 592, level 40, because you've got the money. You don't usually have the money to get 3 upgrades on every one. Just habit looking there. So where our spores is just smashing as we go through, and the Craftsman's Inheritor means we get, oh, we actually get 4. That's why it's so high. We got this one before. I was wondering why it's so high at this point. So we're getting a free, like, 4 levels on some Craftsman. Even more if it procs twice. Now those cavalry there are really brutal, and they slow you. That's why you've got to have the snow boots, and they will just melt you in a second on an 8, especially on an 8 Jokul. This is crazy. The last act, if you read on Fandom, you know, Gunfire Fandom, Fandom, their site on Bizarre Dream, it just changes this whole act and empowers every enemy. And in the last room, it is always innumerable elites. And it's just berserk. I'm just looking for scrolls here. I do that and just see, and I'll toss the scroll if I don't need it, and I don't need that. Sometimes you get a good scroll. And we'll just show you that we've still got overpower of 83% because we're selective on scrolls. We haven't been very lucky on scrolls. You really would want some more you know, we've got no defensive scrolls at all. And that's the RNG of the run. I must say, on the harder runs, they do drop more. We'll do that because we've got plenty to burn, and it will, we'll get lucky shot out of it. Non-elemental, we'll do a little bit more damage, so we'll do that. If we were using the radioactive glove, we wouldn't do that. And we'll just bump that up. Look at that. I think that's the highest I've ever got a weapon with that extra scroll. 664. It's usually 450, 500. This boss won't last long. Just right click his head for the crit spot. Oh, it's not crit and see, he'll melt anyway. Oh, yeah, he crits anyway. Look, he just went straight to the canister. Canister's dead. That's a 1, but on an 8 it would be still melting it. Canister again, just aim at it, auto target, right click it if it's glitching. We're going to push him straight past the orb phase, you know, the one, the spiral of orbs. Just keep your finger down, don't have to do anything. And honestly, if it was an 8, you'd be doing the same. And you can have a look at the videos of me doing that just to prove it, using a spore build. No skills to kill that boss, just defensively. If you're on an 8, you might do, if you get hit, press your E, get your regen up. Do a lightning bolt every now and then to get your max shield up a little bit, and that's it. Okay, let's see the summary of the run here. Again, I'm capped again on essence. But even spending along the way, the game's very well designed. I was playing another game, I won't say it, but spending profusely along the way, and I did lots of rolls at the beginning because I was burning essence, so I knew I'd be capped by the end. It'd be up 1,000 if I was, you know, did 3 or 4 rolls at the start. So you've got to have that to be able to etch in the first act or the second act even. And spores early just makes the difference on the harder runs and the easier runs. If you're struggling with Nightmare and you're watching this ahead of time, Nightmare is much harder than Reincarnation 1 to 5, 1 to 6 even, because of the benefits that I've showed you along the way. The little, starting overconsumption, the spiritual blessings along the way. We had fake death there, so on an 8, it just means if you die in the trash to something, you kill something, you got 45 seconds for it to come back off timer. You just run around and be safe for a second until you see the timer on screen. There's a little heart that counts down. And then you go out and kill stuff again, play it safe if you're trying to get that first run. And watch the video on Spiritual Assault if you're still trying to get your skill tree maxed out. It's a great way of just burning through Spiritual Assault quickly. And level 1 you get spores, so everything gets one shot along the way, and the elites just melt as the run gets harder right the way through. And then on Gluttony, he's not too hard if you get your scrolls and some weapons along the way. Have a good run. I hope that helps. I don't play the Tyro a lot. I did try lots of different builds early on to get the first kill on an R8, and I can tell you that this was the better one to be more successful consistently. Have a good run.